Tonight on Somerville Neighborhood News, a look at the market basket mess, a story about the water chestnut invasion and how people are fighting back, an update on bike safety, a story about the new veterans' home near Teal Square, a peace rally in Copley Square, an update on the grounding of the McGrath Highway, and a report from a meeting about the city's playing fields. All this on Somerville Neighborhood News.
Hello and welcome to Somerville Neighborhood News. Today is July 29th. I'm Margaret Teague.
And I'm Sharon Johnson. Somerville Neighborhood News is a community service production by SCATV, put together by interns, staff, and your neighbors. We bring you the news every 2 weeks on SCATV, Channel 3, and our website, somervilleneighborhoodnews.org, where you can read and watch the news.
That's right. We post the videos and we have the stories written out so that you can read and watch the stories that most interest you.
We hope you'll share our stories by sending a link or by just posting to Facebook.
Or you can just tell your neighbor.
We begin tonight's news over on Somerville Avenue at the Market Basket Supermarket. The family feud between the two Arthurs, the ousted Arthur T. DeMulas and Arthur S. DeMulas, was all over the media last week. Thousands of people across the state have demonstrated and over 60,000 have liked a Facebook page. Officials, including Mayor Joseph A. Curtatone, have come out in support of Arthur T. Employees are boycotting work and 8 workers have been fired already. Last week, our reporters headed over to the Somerville store. They found a lot of empty shelves, notices from the new board, and they found supporters of Arthur T.
Well, I'm here as a customer just to stand by the Market Basket employees and have my voice that I don't want the direction of Market Basket to change. There's grave concern among all the employees and all the people that know that the current leadership wants to cash out the company and essentially extract as much money as possible at the expense of the functioning company that has existed up until this point. So Market Basket has struck a wonderful balance about being a growing, profitable company while at the same time providing good, stable jobs and also the lowest prices among every supermarket. And it would be a shame to destroy that. And that seems to be exactly what is happening right now.
As we were recording this newscast, Arthur T. announced that he wanted to buy out Arthur S. and his backers and take back control of the business. The board met last week. We'll stay abreast of this story.
Well, there's been a lot of support for the protesters of Market Basket and Somerville.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how the workers are really backing their CEO.
Here's some more news. Police discovered cremated human remains at a Somerville storage facility on July 16th while investigating Joseph O'Donnell, who used to run a funeral home in Dorchester. O'Donnell, 55, is currently being held on larceny charges. Police also found cremated human remains in a Weymouth storage unit. Check out our local newspapers and the Somerville Patch for details.
Well, our thoughts and prayers go out to the families who used O'Donnell's funeral home services for their loved ones. Here's an update on the sale of the Union Square Post Office and the historic Ross Moffett mural in the lobby. The building is being sold to an as-yet undisclosed buyer. The U.S. Postal Service said the buyer should make the mural available to the public 12 days a year, but the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, a federal agency, says that's not enough. The council recently wrote to the Postal Service to say that the public should have more access. The aldermen and City Hall agree. The city will be asking for many more days, maybe as many as 300 days a year. Viewers can learn more about this issue in a segment from our March 12th newscast. Use the link bit.ly/SNN Post Office.
Well, we'll see what comes from that debate, won't we?
Yeah, we'll keep the viewers updated on accessibility to the mural.
East Somerville Main Street is looking for volunteers. People can make a long-term commitment or they can just work at one of the many upcoming events like Bad Movie Night at Chucky Harris Park on August 9th at 7 p.m. Check the website eastsomervillemainstreets.org for more details.
Margaret, I wonder which movies are considered bad, but it sounds like a great volunteering opportunity.
It does. I'll probably check it out.
Here's one last announcement. SCATV is extending the deadline for the This Is My Square raffle. To participate, upload a photo of your favorite place, in or near your favorite square. You can be in the photo if you want or not. Win a dinner for 2 at La Brasa and 2 Somerville Theater tickets. Learn more at bit.ly/mysquare.
Have you submitted your photograph yet?
Well, I haven't, but a free dinner at La Brasa sounds awesome, so I'm gonna get on it.
Yeah, certainly. Now our stories for this week. First up, we have a story related to the Israeli assault in the Gaza Strip. When we recorded this newscast, the death toll there was above 800, most of them civilians and some 150 of them children. On July 23rd, the United Nations Human Rights Commission said it would investigate whether or not Israel had been committing crimes against humanity and called for Israel to end the 7-year blockade on Gaza, home to over 1.5 million people, 1.2 million of them Palestinian refugees. Here in the U.S., Jewish Voice for Peace, a national organization, has been holding rallies and vigils around the country over the past few weeks to condemn Israel. Our reporters went to a rally held by the Boston chapter and ran into some Somerville residents.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
On July 22nd, over 1,000 protesters gathered in Copley Square to express their support for Palestinians in Gaza and to condemn the Israeli occupation.
This rally is calling for an end to the massacre in Gaza. It's also calling for an end to American aid to the Israeli military. We are Jews who are standing in solidarity with both Israelis and Palestinians. We stand against the violence of the Israeli state and against the occupation and against the siege of Gaza.
Shame on Israel! Shame on Israel! Shame on Israel! Shame on Israel!
It's not a protest against Israel or Israelis, but in support of the people that are dying in Gaza and the terribly unbalanced incursion that's being presented in many ways as some kind of balanced war when it isn't. It's an overwhelmingly strong army going into a poorly armed place, and it's just intolerable. It's immoral. There's no way to justify it, and that's what we're here to point to.
The protesters marched from Copley Square to the State House, condemning Israel's actions, demanding peace, and asking for an end to American support of the crisis.
This is important because the American government is funding the Israeli military to the tune of some $3 billion a year. And because our money is funding those tanks and those bombs, it directly affects us.
This is being supported by over $3 billion of American money, of tax money that's coming from Somervillians, along with all the rest of America. We continue to call ourselves honest brokers in mediation, and we're not.
As participants said today, although Somervillians are 5,485 miles away from the Gaza Strip, a moral globalized world brings us closer together than ever before. For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Sharon Johnson. Well, Margaret, the atmosphere at the rally was really intense, but everyone there, whether they were anti or pro-Israel, they were there to unite against violence. So it really drew people together.
Good. That's a really great thing to see.
On July 17th, officials from the Massachusetts Department of Transportation came to Somerville to update residents on the plans to ground the McGrath Highway and turn it into a boulevard.
Some 50 residents and local officials turned out to hear the latest developments on the project. The Massachusetts Department of Transportation recently finished the Grounding McGrath study and is now moving on to the planning and construction phase.
We wanted to use this opportunity tonight to inform everyone that this milestone has occurred and that we are moving into development, to hear from you.
When will the traffic patterns change in Union Square?
So I don't have a definitive answer as to when. We are looking at all other alternatives to implement it as quickly as possible, but also in a cost-effective manner.
Alderman Marianne Houston was also concerned about how the project would interface with other development around the city, especially around Union Square.
If things change in McGrath, how will that affect Union Square and the study that's going on right now in Union Square. So I didn't want silos to be created where we've got this stuff going on here, this stuff going on here, and when all is said and done, it merges and you've got a mess.
Officials said they are aware that the project will cause traffic disruptions, but reminded the audience that several studies will be completed before any construction begins.
I don't want to oversimplify the complicated nature of traffic engineering and accommodating movements in this very complex corridor. There's a lot of moving parts here. So
many moving parts bring many challenges.
I think the biggest one for us right now is what happens to the traffic that is currently accommodated on a highway system and becomes a urban boulevard or something that's more parkway-esque.
Tufts University lecturer on transportation planning, Mark Chase, lives in Somerville.
By fixing McGrath Highway, it's going to really re-knit the city back together again so that if you want to walk, take transit, or bike, it's going to make it very easy to get to East Somerville from Central and vice versa. So it's going to make the city more like one city instead of two.
The McGrath Highway has divided the city of Somerville for over 6 decades, but it is soon to come down. What will go in its place? We don't know for sure. All we do know is that this monstrosity will soon be eliminated from the city skyline. We'll keep an eye on the story as it develops. Reporting for Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Elijah Kaplan.
Next, we bring you a story about an immigrant that's not well loved here in Somerville or anywhere else up and down the Mystic River. It invaded our area 100 years ago. Shu-Ching Zhao brings us the story.
Despite annual harvest with giant machines and the work of thousands of volunteers, water chestnuts continue to clog the Mystic River.
Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Pick it up.
It's definitely a long-term project for us, but we've been working on it now for 5 years. When I started, there were water chestnuts in the river here and there, and then it just exploded, and it became obvious very, very quickly that we needed to get involved with the removal and eradication of this plant.
Can you toss me that bucket because this, you'll double over there? Yeah, a lot of this stuff is just kind of...
Hand pulling isn't the most efficient technique in the long battle against the invasive species, but for areas too shallow for machines, people power is everything.
We just put a call out to our membership. I put it on social media, put it on volunteer organizations, and that's how we get these folks.
It's just incredible. Everybody seems to get, the more they know about the program, the more people tend to come out here.
It's really cool because we see community members coming back every time. And we saw like today and for the last event, we had to close registration because too many people wanted to be involved.
On July the 12th, volunteers put 889 baskets of water chestnuts out of the river, according to Latwig. Dr. Colin Oriens is a professor at Tufts University. He specializes in invasive species.
It's not only an effective way of getting to places the harvesters can't go, but it's also a community building experience. It gets people involved in the river, which I also think is really important to its long-term health.
Oriens points out other than support from the community, timing is also important for the removal project.
If you wait too late in the year, the water chestnut has already produced its fruit. Those fruits will float long distances and they'll sink down into the mud and they can stay dormant for up to 12 years.
To minimize the number of water chestnuts for the next year, the best time for removal is June to July.
Most people think of an invasive species as being something that's exotic, that is very abundant and causes problems, economic and ecological harm in the invaded habitat.
A small water chestnut plant multiplies quickly, takes away oxygen and room from other plants and animals in the river. Eventually, they either move or perish.
They've got 1 million seeds and they'll go down in the bottom and lay dormant, come back year after year. Just like politics, goes on forever.
It has a pretty extensive root system, and the root system comes from this nut here, which is also the seed. So these roots, this seed attaches here, the stem or the root system grows up, and this is what you see on the floating is the flower. The flower, which will have another seed throughout the season, it grows another seed. Right now, we're cutting them before the seeds have a chance to even grow, which is allowing us, which causes the plant not to drop its seed, meaning that it won't regrow last year. So it's an annual plant, and once it dies, that's it.
Mechanical harvesting in the Mystic began in 2011 when the spread of water chestnuts started going out of control. Removing the water chestnuts this year has cost about $100,000. As you can see, their job's not done yet. If you want to help out, there's another hand-pulling event coming up on August the 9th. Reporting for Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Chu-Qing Zhao.
Wow, I had no idea. Well, if you want to help out, get in touch with the Mystic River Watershed Association at mysticriver.org. On July 14th, the city's Recreation Fields Task Force met at City Hall. Here's a report.
This was the third meeting of the Fields Task Force. Many coaches and parents want the city's recreational fields upgraded, and they want more fields. Some want grass, others want artificial turf. But everyone agrees something must be done. Lincoln Park especially is a real problem.
And right now, there's glass coming through and rocks and everything, and if kids play on there, it's not the safest thing.
Mayor Joseph A. Curtatone attended to hear from and to address the task force members.
The good news is we have such high demand and participation in physical activity in the city. The tough part is just to maintain things that we have in a proper standard of repair.
Curtatone focused on the state-owned parks and fields, Dilboy, Foss, and Draw 7. All of them need investment, but it's not clear the state will pay for that work. But the city hasn't given up.
We've tried to be creative. We've been the most creative community in town DCL where we're able to take over operational burdens if you make the investment. I think we're the only cities in the state, if not the only one, that passed a home rule petition that allows us to borrow to invest city money to build things on state land. On Foss, we made it very clear to the state we'd even take back full control and long-term. Foss was a city asset before it was turned over to when the MDC was created several decades ago. They would take it back without them making an investment because we'd much rather have control of our destiny in the long term.
Another key park is Draw 7. Assembly Square developer Fritt has promised $500,000 to pay for the design of fields at the park. Curtatone said he hopes the state will either implement that design, perhaps with 2 artificial turf fields, or hand the land over to the city.
The state still has to either make the investment and bring it up to what we expect as a community or hand it over to us.
Not everyone favors artificial turf.
I think that there is a lot of interest, in the part of the community to be preserving, real grass fields.
I'm a natural grass person more than anything, and if we could do all that, I think we want to do that. It's impossible, and while we could level, all of Annabelle or something and try to do that, that's not going to work.
Some new fields will probably be artificial, the mayor said, but Task Force Chair Mary Jo Rossetti stressed that no final decisions have been made yet.
It is still work in progress. We're talking about a lot of possibilities and questions and ideas. We will eventually be putting forward a memo to the mayor, who's awaiting an opinion from this group of people, working with the open spaces committees meetings that are ongoing in this group. I feel after listening to the mayor that we will be seeing some concrete results happening, and I'm thrilled to hear that.
Now let's hear what's in this week's Somerville Journal.
Hello, this week in the Somerville Journal, we'll be taking an in-depth look at campaign contributions to city politicians. We'll be looking at parents who are upset at Tufts Daycare closing and coming under new management, and we'll be examining the explosion of condos and new development across the city. You can follow us online at Ville Journal on Twitter. You can always check us out at wickedlocal.com/Somerville and get in touch with me at 617-629-3385 or datkinson@wickedlocal.com.
Next, we bring you an update to a bike safety story we did a few months back. The school year ended with some great bike safety trainings for kids, but what about out on the streets? Reporter Justin Page wanted to see how things were going for the bikers, drivers, and pedestrians now that the summer is in full swing.
Since 2010, the number of bikers across the city has nearly doubled. The city has created new bike paths and other amenities, but some are concerned that education and enforcement lag. City Hall has an outreach program, but maybe it's not enough. Police and residents report continued driver and biker violations.
We do have the same problems that other communities have with all road users not necessarily using the road the way they should. So you do see some red light violations, for example. That's the common one we hear complaints about. It's hard to pick the sort of the biggest challenge because there's a variety of impacts that we're trying to make. I know that as we were discussing, the police have been out doing some enforcement to educate as well as to give tickets.
City Hall has a bike safety poster campaign, but is currently out of posters, so education falls to the police.
I've pulled over between 300 and 400 cyclists and had a conversation and either given a verbal warning or a written warning. For the most part, I haven't given out many money fines. I would say 1% are for money. The rest are just education, conversation.
So far in 2014, the police have issued 506 citations to bikers for violations such as biking on sidewalks in business districts and going through stop signals. One reason for the increased enforcement is a new $35,000 grant aimed at improving biker and pedestrian safety.
I think it will help because it will get more people out there doing it. Right now, there aren't that many of us out there doing bicycle enforcement. I was out there this morning with another officer and we were doing just that. I wasn't doing the grant enforcement, I was just doing what I regularly do every morning, and the other officer was on that grant program. There's plenty of room to improve. There are a lot of bicyclists and we're doing our best to get the message out. I'm out there every morning and I have seen a marked improvement. Yes, it's getting much better. We're trying to be the #1 bike city in the country and I think we're well on our way.
The grant has allowed for increased enforcement of laws that regulate both drivers and bikers. Will safety continue to improve? Our reporters will keep on this story. For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Justin Page.
Well, there certainly are a ton of bikers in Union Square.
Yeah, I definitely think there's room for improvement.
Sure, yeah. We end with a story about a new facility for veterans up near Teal Square. For the past few months, the media and elected officials have been talking about poor service from the VA, and we've all heard the horrifying statistics on unemployment, homelessness, and suicides. According to the Department of Veterans Affairs, between 1999 and 2011, 22 vets committed suicide every day. Mayor Curtatone recently committed the city to meeting a nationwide mayor's challenge to end veteran homelessness by 2016. Reporter Gracie McKenzie brings us the story.
We essentially don't have a veterans homelessness problem here. We are incredibly fortunate. I don't know whether it's a matter of we can take some of the credit for having been so aggressive in helping to get people squared away in our advocacy, or if it's simply a matter of the programs that we have in place here between the state programs and this office, being very proactive. And so it's a very interesting situation that we have here in that recently a nonprofit organization called the Volunteers of America built a facility called the Massachusetts Bay Veterans Center on Broadway at the intersection of North Street. And well, because we didn't have anyone in Somerville who needed housing, at least not who met their criteria, all of the people that ended up moving in there came from places other than Somerville.
My name is Robert Griffiths. I'm the case manager here at the Massachusetts Bay Veterans Center. We're a transitional housing program for 22 veterans. We're 4 to 6 month housing program where we teach the veterans life skills. We get them ready to go out and apply for a job, get them ready for employment. We also help them find permanent housing. And you know, it's not the typical veteran that you see under the bridge holding the sign anymore. We have a lot of young vets coming back, and they're doing a lot of couch surfing. They're living with their parents, they're living with friends. So, you know, technically they're homeless, and this transitional program is just an awesome opportunity for them to get on their feet.
It's the nicest place in the state. It's got to be. I've been in a bunch of places. This is like the nicest place in the state.
So we have 15 rooms on the first floor here, as well as the basement. 7 are single room occupancy, which I'd like to show you one right now. I'm going to show them the room. Sound good? Thanks, buddy.
Doing my homework.
So here we have one of the single room occupancies. Our veteran Tim has been here since January 10th, and that was our first day that we opened. So he's part of the first 7. And Tim actually works for us now. He works behind the desk, and we're training him, getting him ready to get back into the workforce. So, well, the original 7 veterans came from the Bedford VA. These were gentlemen that have been on housing lists for a very long time, probably the most in need as far as this program and what we have to offer. So we took on those veterans, and now we're actually seeing a change into more of the younger veterans and returnees from the most recent conflicts.
27 years old. I was in the United States Marine Corps. I went on 2 deployments. I loved it. I loved being a part of it. I loved everybody I was with. Basically loved everything about it, you know. It was really hard to come back, because you come back and then you just try to live a normal life, you know, and it's kind of not really possible to do that. When you go to Iraq or Afghanistan, that's like a whole different world, you know. It's like a completely different world, and then you learn too much. I think people are only supposed to see so much and know so much, and then you learn more than that, and you see more than that, and then you come home and you're expected to walk a straight line as a average guy, and people, especially guys, you know what I'm saying, they come back from that stuff and they have issues with, they just have issues, you know what I'm saying, but they're also Marines or Army or whatever, and they also feel like they gotta be the toughest guy on the block. Good boy. So they don't ask for help, you know, they don't look for help. I didn't look for help. I didn't know there was help. No, he's been huge in it, honestly. Like, I get stressed out, I take him for a walk, you know. Stress is gone. And a few good people, like, really saved my life pretty much. I came from a bad place, and now I'm doing pretty good, you know. I think I'm doing all right. I'd like to get out of here, you know, be on my own, get him his own bed, you know, in an apartment, and that'd be great. But I think I'm all right now. I'm in the right place for sure.
Well, that's all for now. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back on August 12th.
But just don't tune in every 2 weeks. Check us out online at SomervilleNeighborhoodNews.org, or go to our Facebook page and share your favorite segment.
Or tweet us at SCATV SNN. We'd love for you to be more involved with Somerville Neighborhood News.
What's happening on your block? Who's your neighborhood hero? What issues aren't being covered?
Become a reporter or just send us your ideas. You can call at 617-628-8826 or write to news@scatvsomerville.org. I'm Margaret Haig.
And I'm Sharon Johnson. See you around the neighborhood.